would coach them. And I think those two things don't even necessarily make what we would do or the meat of our training all that different.
Yeah. I think there's two things. Our points today are talking about session design and the psychology or the mental part of it or the environment that we create. So in terms of session design and principles of play, we use the same principles of play for women and girls and boys and men and people who maybe don't identify with either of those. We use the same principles of play. The game is the same in terms of our job is to stop the opponent from scoring and help facilitate the attack, right? That it's the same on both sides. The way you interpret those principles are up to you individually specifically, right? Because you get some tall men who maybe aren't as quick and you get some shorter men who maybe are really fast. And it's the same on the women's side. And there's, you can fall on the spectrum of anywhere from preventative to reactionary in any phase of the game. In any task of the goalkeeper, there are different elements to you as an individual that you want to use to your strengths, and you want to play to your strengths, and you also want to work on your areas that need some more support. But it is up to you as the individual to interpret the position in alignment with two things. One is your team strategy, and two is your capabilities. And that doesn't really change based on gender. It's the same. We believe that it's the same. The goal of the training is to allow players to understand the game a little bit more deeply and understand themselves a little bit more deeply so that they can consistently and effectively solve the problems that are put out in front of them, right? That are unfolding in front of them. And so we often have girls and boys in the same session, and it's incredible because I like it because there's different qualities of each that come in, and we can work together to understand how to make the best decision in each circumstance. And there's a lot of collaboration, and there's a lot of, I'm going to bring my ideas and we'll talk about it, and you bring your ideas and talk about it. And honestly, it really doesn't matter. It's independent of gender. It's just collaboration, which I love collaboration. It's like one of my top 3 favorite parts about sport is being able to collaborate with other people and work together toward, the common overall good. But yeah, I don't really think gender matters when it comes to principles of play and how you want to interpret the position based on who you are as a human.
Snaps to that.
The second thing I think is a big misconception is that girls are soft, and you have to, and that you have to be over the top kind, and that you can't hold them to a standard, and that boys are hard and boys are tough, and you can yell at them and you can scream at them and they're fine. And based on the data, based on all the research that I've done, that is a very big misconception. I think the environment is, to us, that's the foundation of everything we do at TKI. It's not about you. It's not about me. It's not about our knowledge. It's not about, the goalkeepers level that we're working with. Our first and most important priority is making a space where everyone feels seen, heard, supported, and safe. Because we are consistently asking goalkeepers to be vulnerable, right? At TKI, we don't train so that you feel 10 out of 10. We don't do your strengths all the time because we want you to feel stretched. There is a certain amount of what's called desirable difficulty that we want to help put you in so that you can grow your game and have more awareness or have more opportunities and experience in things that are hard. And in order to make things hard, we have to make things safe first, because if not, you're just going to hide your vulnerabilities. And I don't know, maybe you can share a bit of your experience with this, but when I was on the national team, I never worked on things that were uncomfortable for me because I did not want to be seen as not capable or less than or not good enough in these areas. And because I never intentionally worked on the areas that I needed to work on, I never got better at them. And it was always something that hindered my performance and hampered my performance because I was in my head thinking, please, I hope that does not occur. I hope that a ball back to my left foot does not occur because I'm not comfortable with it. I'm not competent with it. And I spent so much of my career as a pro hiding the things that I wasn't comfortable with instead of working on them and facing them head on and running. I ran away from them because I didn't want to be seen as less. And because of that, I never worked on it and I never got better at it. And it was something that followed me for the rest of my career. So we don't want that to happen, especially with young players that they're in a developmental phase. Like, it's not about results, it's about development. And if players don't feel comfortable, girls, boys, and indifferent to gender, it's going to be really hard for them to work on hard things. And it's going to be really hard for you as a coach to maintain a good environment when someone wants to light you on fire every day.
Yeah, I think that like something you really like could think about is it doesn't have to do with gender, how someone reacts to you. So like you could be screaming at a man, a woman, a girl, a boy. Like it doesn't matter. Some of them might not physically show you that they're upset, independent of gender, right? But it doesn't mean that it's working. And it doesn't mean that it's okay what you're doing or that it's helpful. They just might not be expressing it, or they're not necessarily emotionally impacted by it. But that has nothing to do with their gender.
Right.
And it has everything to do with probably more of like their psychological components of themselves. And it also doesn't mean that they can handle it.
Yeah.
So I think it's just like so often we've put it that like men, boys can handle it and girls can't because they'll cry. That's not the case. I think some people, like I have met young girls who are just stoic and they're like, you could probably say anything and they'd have the same face on, right?
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with their gender. It has everything to do with them. But we have to look back and we have to think like, oh, is this helpful? Is this useful? And I think that we just like so often are like, all right, this is how it needs to be for this person and that's how it needs to be for that person. But it doesn't mean it's effective. Like that psychological safety is huge. You have to create that understanding and that supportive environment so that you can get goalkeepers that want to train in an environment where they are exposing themselves, right? They're not afraid to use their left foot. They're not afraid to make mistakes. They're not avoiding things to not look a certain way. They're there. They're present with you. They want to get better. They can collaborate in the conversation. I think that's what's important.
I also think that facilitates better performance too, right? When you can stretch someone in training to wrestle with the mistakes that they're making and wrestle with failure, guess what? That's not isolated to just training. That leaks into every other part of their life. Okay, let me just give you an example. So most people know I have two children, a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, and the 5-year-old has like started to get into like more sports and like physical activities and stuff. And he's around people all the time that are high achievers and that are high level athletes, right? Like his aunt is the best goalkeeper in the world. And so he's around her all the time and he sees success all the time. You know, you're playing in front of thousands of people, you're making saves. You know, she won a gold medal at the Olympics. Like he sees success on a daily basis, right? And in my head, I thought, wow, that's amazing. He's around all these high achievers all the time, right? And he sees people who are really successful in their lives and great role models, right? Like great people too. But what he doesn't see are all the mistakes behind all that, right? All the efforts behind all that, all the trials and the frustrations and the obstacles that have gone into making those people really successful at the highest level in the world. And it impacted him in a really negative way. So he was playing basketball one day, you know, just like the one that you put over the door and you shoot. And he was playing and he couldn't get the ball in. And like, not for nothing, like it's kind of hard. It's like the one that goes over the door. It's a little ball. It's a little net. And like, it's hard for me sometimes.
The
it's hard.
Ball's very bouncy.
It is bouncy, right? And he was playing and Dom was rebounding for him and he said, I don't want to play anymore. And Dom said, come on, try again. He was like, no, I'm not very good at basketball. And she was like, what do you mean? Like, you don't play just to be good at it. Like you play because it's fun. And he was like, no. And she said, well, why else? And he said, well, that's how you make money. Right. And I thought to myself, it's because he's surrounded by all these people who actually do make money from playing sports and coaching sports. And he hadn't yet developed resilience, and he hadn't yet developed grit. And because he hadn't developed that resilience and grit, he wanted to stop. And I think about that so often, that example. And yes, he was like 3 or 4 at the time, but like I think about that example so much when I think about youth goalkeepers in today's game, is that they want to stop playing because they don't feel comfortable making mistakes. They don't feel comfortable managing the pressure, because the only way for them to manage the pressure is to be perfect. And nobody is, right? And as long as you play goalkeeper, you're going to lose. As long as you play goalkeeper, you're going to make mistakes. And the more comfortable we get with making those errors and trying again, the more resilience that we develop within our training sessions, the more that translates to games, and the more that leads to like a longer career and longevity in your career, because you've accepted the fact that this part of the game is going to happen. When I step on the field, I'm accepting that mistakes could happen to me today, but I know they're going to happen, whether it's today, tomorrow, or next week. I know they're going to happen, and I feel more prepared to deal with it. Nobody talks about this side of the game, about how stretching people in a comfortable situation in training where it's safe helps them to be able to manage those situations in games and just in overall life and career, which leads to more learning, which leads to more higher performance, which leads to more competence and more confidence of like, wow, that was really hard for me a few months ago, and look how all the progress I've made.
Welcome to the Keeper Institute podcast. My name is Tori Corsaro. I'm a strength and conditioning and goalkeeper coach here at the Keeper Institute and your host for today's show. The Keeper Institute is a unique goalkeeper training facility in New Jersey aimed at developing better goalkeepers and better people. On this podcast, we will be discussing all things goalkeeping, character development, and more.
Welcome back to another episode of the Keeper Institute podcast. I put my whole body into it.
You really did. I just did the cheat code, which is a button.
You did. But I like it. I think it adds some flair.
Yeah. All right. Wait, I really want to get into this topic right away because I'm so excited about it. I'm so passionate about this topic. I really am. And I want to start this off with, this is specifically for players, but also can be really helpful for parents. I think if you're a coach and you want to get better as a coach, this is probably not the podcast for you. Maybe it is, but we want to talk about mentality. Today's episode is all about a goalkeeper's mentality, a goalkeeper's thought process, and how we can support you in becoming the best goalkeeper that you can be. And this is I guess a weird flex, but I am one of 26 people that have ever played for our U.S. Women's National Team.
Oh my gosh.
As a goalkeeper, I'm one of 26. And if I was starting over at day one, this would be the feedback that I think I would want to know as a small person that would help me be successful when I got to the best team in the world. So I want to share that with you guys. Tori is going to provide insight about her life and her journey, and we're going to share some anecdotes and little stories. But today we're talking about focusing our energy on progress. How can I progress instead of how can I be perfect? And I think, and maybe you can share a little bit about your journey, but like that was something that I didn't realize until after I was done playing. And I wish if I could go back, I would tell myself this. It is about progressing and not being perfect. And that would have freed me up to be so much more and to chase so much more, and probably in a way more enjoyable environment.
Yeah. I wish that, like, you know, I didn't really hear that from many people growing up. And then I started to hear it, like, when I moved here from you. And at that point, I'm a young adult. I'm in my 20s. But even then, you said it to me, Jill, and probably a lot of times more than I care to admit. But I also don't think I fully grasped it until I was done playing. Mm-hmm. And it's like one of those things where, like, darn, hindsight really is 2020. But I do think that if we can instill that in young players now, and young players, you can take the time to learn what it looks like for you and what it means to you. It doesn't have to be hindsight. It can be what you're experiencing and what you're doing and how you're using it right now to have that perspective.
Yeah, and it's so counterculture, right? It is so counter of what we see every day and what we intake every day, which is people's highlight reels. We only see the best, right? We don't really get to see what's underneath that tip of the iceberg of all that hard work, all the mistakes, all the progress, all the, fighting with yourself of like, I can do this, and the determination and the grit. You don't see that. You see someone's highlight reel, you see them make the save, right? And I think we get so consumed about that. My journey should mirror that I should look like that. And instead of like just valuing wherever you are on that spectrum of your journey of like, you know what, I am a really good shot stopper, but you know what, I also really need to grow in my in possession. I really need to grow there, and I can be great, a great shot stopper, and I can also need to work on my in possession, right? I just want to share a little story about my experience. And, I grew up not having any formal training. Like, I had no formal training. I just was an athlete, got put in the goal, and was kind of athletic. And so kept the ball at the back of the net as much as I could and made saves. And I got to be maybe like 14 or 15 until someone was like, wow, you actually have some talent. And I played on a better club team when I was like 15. And that club team had a lot of players that eventually went to play D1, and it was a really talented group of women. And while I was on that team, I got, I guess, scouted or recognized. And when I went to college, I only had 2 choices of colleges. That was it. On that June 15th date that you can get all these calls, only two universities called me. And it was either Villanova or Rutgers. I only had 2 choices. I went to Villanova, had a great goalkeeper coach who poured into me, invested in me. But before that time, I had literally no idea what I was doing. I was just relying on instinct, and I was just enjoying myself of like, all right, I'm just going to try the best I can. I'm going to listen to what people are telling me, and I'm going to try to make that happen as much as possible. And just relied on purely instinct and purely just what someone had previously told me was the right thing to do. And it wasn't until I got to college where I had my first full-time goalkeeper coach who, was educating me, empowering me, giving me information. And, my career like really took off. But it was crazy because I did well in my 5 years of college. But then when I went pro, it became hard. It felt hard. It felt really, really hard. Like, it felt like, relying on your instincts wasn't just good enough anymore. Like, I had to put more care, more attention, and more thought process into becoming the best goalkeeper that I could be. And we trained in a very, very specific manner. And, my career was jump-started by training under Hope Solo, who is the most athletic goalkeeper I ever worked with, and was able to just do ridiculous stuff. But she also needed some support on like, the more technical refining pieces of her game, which is why she liked to work with me. But I knew that was like one of my X factors at that point, because I was coachable. And then it became my demise because everything had to be perfect. I had to do every single little thing. If my elbow was off by 1 degree, I was upset. Even if I caught the ball, like if my chest was back and I still caught the ball, I was mad at myself. Like, I just became over analytical and a perfectionist, which ultimately led to my downfall, because that's not how the game is played, right? We have to be so adaptable. We have to be effective. And I was so caught up in being perfect that I actually took away from all the other things that I could do efficiently really well. And I got so caught up in these things that it ultimately led me to starting to hide what I wasn't good at. It really led me to starting to hide like my left foot, because I wasn't very good at it. And so because I didn't want people to see that I wasn't competent with my left foot, I didn't want everyone to know it. I just never used it. And because I never used it, I never got better at it. And I was so unwilling to make mistakes in training that it took away the purpose of practice. The practice is to get better, right? And because I hid that left foot because I didn't want anyone to know it wasn't competent, I never got better at it. And when it came to the games, I wasn't comfortable. And in my head, I was like, I really hope it doesn't come back to my left foot, because if it does, I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with it. And that became a piece of me that was always fearful and always doubting, right? And you really can't compartmentalize confidence. You can't compartmentalize like, oh yeah, I'm really good at this, but I'm not going to let my fear of it coming back to my left foot impact anything else. It's just all one, right? And because ultimately I never grew in possession, that was something that, I didn't get to that, my highest aspiration. I didn't get to that highest level of like unlocking my most potential and my best self, because I was too afraid that if I let this part out of me, that I couldn't be confident too, right? Like it was a very fragile and frail confidence, because I was so afraid if I had a bad practice, I was going to get cut. Or if I didn't perform well in my game, I wasn't going to get called back to the national team. And because, my preparation that week wasn't good, I wasn't going to play well, and then I was going to get cut. And, we've all been down the road where we catastrophize everything, right?
Oh, yeah.
But I really think if I would have went back, like that would be the one piece of myself that I would love to just give my younger self a hug and tell my younger self, like, hey, take a breath. You're supposed to fail. You're supposed to fail right now.
Yeah.
It's okay to make mistakes. Like that means you're getting better. Like, if your mentality piece is right during those mistakes, you get better. Whether you have a successful rep or whether you don't, you don't need a successful rep to improve. You just need the right mindset and the right awareness around whatever it is that you're trying to work on, right? And I think I was just so caught up in being perfect that I couldn't allow myself to fail. And I couldn't allow myself to like really process what it is that I was working on, what it is I was learning. And like I couldn't process the information available to me, so that when I got into games, oh my gosh, you guys, I was an ice cube. I was so frozen because I wasn't sure what to do, right?
Yeah.
I hadn't really wrestled with, should I go or should I stay? It was just something I always tried to err on the side of like not making a mistake and looking dumb. And because I never pushed myself out of my comfort zone in training, I didn't get to earn the confidence when it came to game day. And I also didn't get to earn the fact that if I made a mistake in a game, I could still be confident, because in training, my training never reflected that. Like, and it's not anyone else's fault but my own. My training never reflected make mistakes, wrestle. It's sticky. Work on my resilience and work on my grit and my determination and my confidence, even though it's sticky and hard. And then when it came to a game, when I made a mistake, it was like, oh my gosh, my world is crumbling underneath of me. I don't know. Does any of that resonate with you?
I mean, all of it except for being one of the whatever 26 or whatever you are of the women's national team. I couldn't agree more. That was my ultimate demise, and I think it's funny because you say it right. Like what made you great was your attention to detail and your like relentlessness to perfect your craft, but ultimately it also was part of your demise. Mm-hmm. And I feel the same way. Like I could just get obsessed with soccer, and I still could get obsessed with what we do until I burn myself into the ground. I'm like, I'm sick and I need to take 2 days off because I'm hacking a lung, right? Like it's easy when you love something to just get so intertwined with it and to become like obsessed or so passionate about it that like perfection is almost what you're trying to obtain without taking a step back and being like, oh wait, perfection isn't attainable, but this progress I can make is going to sustain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like it's helped me now in my career as an analyst, because it is a high pressure situation, and it really does bring me back to when I was playing. And now every time I go into a game, like I have my routines that I do just like I did when I was playing, but I really do like take deep breaths and I remind myself of I'm going to make a mistake tonight. I really, it's like literally when, we live in a place where a lot of like natural disasters could happen, right? Like there could be hurricanes or winds or thunderstorms, or there was a tornado here. And like the time to prepare for that natural disaster isn't when the natural disaster is happening, right? It's not when, the tornado is right on us. It's before, or the hurricane is coming like a week in advance, and then you're in the middle of it and you're like, oh, I need canned goods. No, it's like you need to prepare before it, because it's coming. You've already been told, it's already been forecasted, right? And it shouldn't be a surprise to you when that hurricane comes up all the way from Florida up to New Jersey, right? And I think that we don't do that well enough as goalkeepers. And I will put my hand up every day, twice on Sunday, and say, when I played, I did not do that well. I didn't want to make mistakes, and none of us do, right? But we also didn't prepare for the inevitable. I didn't prepare for the inevitable of you're going to make mistakes today. And every time I made a mistake, it was like, oh my gosh, I should quit soccer. This isn't fun. I'm terrible. People are going to think I suck. My teammates are going to want to light me on fire because I gave up a soft goal. And in all reality, that wasn't true, but it felt that way in the moment. It really did feel that way. And now, like, when I think about it, I'm like, okay, I made a mistake. I made that mistake. Yeah, I called her the wrong name. I pronounced it the wrong way. But you know what? If I dwell on it right now, I'm going to be worse for the remaining 80 minutes of this game. Right. And my team doesn't want me to be bad because I need them. Like, I care about them and I want to be my best for them too. And so taking a deep breath. Okay. And we're back in staying in the moment and being present. And that mistake, I don't need to make up for that mistake. I don't. Because as soon as you start trying to make up for mistakes, you put yourself in a worse position to make emotional and irrational decisions, right? But what I can do is just stay in the present and keep showing up, because that one mistake doesn't define my career. What defines me is probably my next 80 minutes, actually,
Yep.
Yes. And these are all things like I wish I would have known when I played, because I really feel like I really could have unlocked my potential, because I went from this, like, I don't know anything about goalkeeping, just athlete, into understanding more about the position and becoming a perfectionist. And that's what I felt like was keeping me at that level. Right. And then with all the pressure of being a professional athlete and being on our US team, like, I didn't accept that pressure well. And so every single time I made a mistake, it was like, okay, well, I'm going to get cut and I'm going to have to work at McDonald's, because I don't have anything else besides this whole soccer thing. Right.
And a biology degree.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But in my head,
you could be a substitute teacher, like half of our staff right now at TKI.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, I wish I would have shown myself a little more grace, and I wish I would have prepared for those mistakes when they happened. And looking back, I would have prepared in training. I would have stretched myself in training and not just been like, I have to be, my elbow has to be perfectly at this certain degree for me to be able to. No, I want to explore, like, making decisions on whether I should catch or push away. I want to explore what, how does the width of my feet impact my final actions, right? Like, start thinking about that more than trying to protect myself, right? Rather than trying to protect myself from my mentality when I made mistakes. Like, you ever do that sometimes in relationships or like in your family, your friends or whatever? You're like, this could be a tough conversation. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to walk away because I don't want to have that. And you protect yourself from having the conflict with someone, right? But then the conflict never gets resolved. And it's the same thing with ourselves, and wrestling with ourselves is like, we try to protect ourselves from the pain of making mistakes. And in essence, we don't work on the things we need to work on, right? And probably, if you're a parent, you can reflect and think about, how you're doing this on a daily basis, because I still do it, and hopefully not as much. But I still do it. And I think, if we can bring some more attention to normalizing mistakes and normalizing working on stuff in training and normalizing asking questions and normalize being a human being that's not perfect, the more opportunities we have. Two things. One, we can work on things that are hard. And two, we can develop a mentality of resilience and a mentality of grit and a mentality of like self-efficacy. Because when inevitably that mistake comes in a game, you can tap into your experiences of wrestling with mistakes. And so if we can get rid of this perfectionist mentality and protecting myself, right? I'm going to protect myself from feeling the pain of making mistakes. If we can get rid of that and just lay that down as often as we can be in a mindset of, I am getting better. I am making mistakes and it's okay. I'm aware of it. We're working on it. We're working on this. And if you can understand that at the youngest ages, you're unstoppable, in my opinion. You're like, you can't be stopped.
Yeah.
In life, in goalkeeping.
In life and goalkeeping. And I think often, like, we'll say this, like, someone's like, what's one thing I can do to like tap into my next level? And we're like, focus on your mental game, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's so overlooked. It's so underutilized. And it doesn't have to be going to see a sports psych or a therapist. Although I do think that's a great idea for everybody. Anyone who has a heartbeat should go to a therapist. But side note, it can be as simple as stepping into a training and saying to myself, I will make mistakes today, and I'm going to make sure that my reaction helps me get better from them. Or some kind of mantra, some kind of motto. It could be pausing when you do get frustrated and forcing yourself to take a few deep breaths. It can be coming up with some kind of contingency plan for when things aren't going your way or you're not having a good day. It could be journaling. Like, there are some low barrier to entry things you could do that could really start to change the trajectory of your mental game right now.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. And if you're a parent listening to this, I highly suggest you chat with your players about this. This is something that in my TKI University class, I do individual meetings with goalkeepers once a month. And one of my challenges to the goalkeeper this week is she has been going through like a 4 or 5 month long injury. And, what my job was as a coach is to bring some attention around her resilience, right? Around her resilience. Yeah. And like, sometimes we don't recognize, like, wow, there have been so many circumstances in my life that I've already displayed the utmost resilience. I just didn't recognize it as resilience. And wow, I actually really am a resilient human. Like, I've done all these other things, but I don't value that necessarily as myself. So my challenge that I gave her was, hey, I want you to go to your parents and I want you to tell them how you're feeling about like being really having a hard time with this like injury. And I want you to ask them for them to recognize one moment in you that you've been resilient and that you have displayed resilience. And I want them to tell you one of the times that you've been resilient. And then I want you to ask your parents, tell me one time about you being resilient, because I think we think our parents are superheroes and that they don't have any problems and that everything is easy as gravy for them. Right. And so I told her, ask your parents about one of the times that they have displayed resilience in their life. And I want you to see that everybody needs this because nobody is perfect and we all have a hard time. And even though your hard time might be with goalkeeping and their hard time might be with paying their bills or going to work and being a lung surgeon or whatever that might be, that you both embody this resilience. And she came back and she told me that it really helped her and that she didn't know the story that her parents told her about either herself being resilient or her parents needing to be resilient. And she was like, it really did help me. Like, I felt so inspired in that moment. And it really brought some attention and awareness to the fact that like, I am a resilient human being and I'm going to get through this. And I was like, yes, get in there. This is exactly it. And like, so many parents want to know, what can you do for your players? Like, hey, just share a little bit about yourself, and like normalize like who you are as a human being, and like these character traits, like that's probably like our legacy of the most important thing that we can pass on to our children or players that we work with,
Yeah.
Well, I feel like we could talk about this topic forever because it's something that we, one, experience as players. Two, we see it when players are going through it now as coaches, and we also are wrestling with it as human beings every day, right? Like, oh golly, I always think like I need to be this perfect coach or this perfect parent or this perfect analyst or perfect leader, and there's really no such thing. And showing ourselves some grace and understanding that we're going to make mistakes, but you know what, we're going to take responsibility for it as well, and we're going to move on and be better for it. And I think the quicker we can harness that idea and those beliefs, the more it's going to impact us on a really long-term basis, because it allows us to be vulnerable, and from that we can work on things, and that's actually a place of strength. But two is it allows us to grow in every single area of our life. I need to work on my left foot, and I'm going to work on it. It's going to be hard and it's going to be sticky, and I'm going to develop grit and resilience, and I'm also going to develop getting better with my left foot. And it might be better next week, or it might be better in a month, it might be better in a year, but if I don't start right now, it's never going to be better.
Ain't that the truth?
Yes.
And you don't want to get to like, the later half of your career and have to be like, oh, I avoided that for so long, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, start now. If you're young, start doing this now. It's never too late to start. That's not what I'm saying. But imagine you're 12, 13, 14, 15, and you're working on some of these aspects. It's like, all right, now I have this really strong foundation going into my high school years. Okay, I'm in high school. I have a really strong foundation going into my collegiate years. I just think that the more time you can give it to work on it, the better you're going to be. And it doesn't have to be big. It could start small. Start small and be nice to yourself in training when you make a mistake, because it's going to pay off dividends in a game when you make one.
Yeah, I guess that's our challenge for everybody is right now, just like check in with yourself. Like, what are you protecting yourself? What element of life or goalkeeping are you protecting yourself from so that you don't have to feel disappointed? What are you not trying out for because you don't want to wrestle with the fact that you could not make that team? What are you not working on because you think that people are going to judge you and they are going to say negative things about you? What are you trying to protect yourself from that you're not allowing yourself to progress in? That's the challenge.
That's a challenge.
Yeah, that is a challenge. And if you guys have something you want to share, like please reach out to us and tell us because it's super inspiring. We just got a couple good podcast emails the last couple weeks, and it's so inspiring for us to hear that these conversations between friends are helping you guys. And if you ever need support, you're like, hey, I have been avoiding solving pressure for my entire career and I'm not really sure where to start. Reach out to us because we really want to support you. And you guys are amazing. You're valuable in every sense, and you belong in an environment where you can try and explore new things and be safe to fail. All right, you got a question?
Do I have a question? I do.
Okay.
Okay, so this kind of goes along with our topic in a sense. What is a lesson that you would give other people? Like, if you could instill this in them, like they didn't have to work at it, it's just like something you could give them, what would it be?
Okay. This is a good question because it's something that I've been wrestling with a lot lately. Okay. And one of the reasons why I didn't allow myself to lay down this armor of protection was because I was so busy comparing myself to other people. And I was always looking around to see what does so-and-so have and what does so-and-so have and what don't I have? What do they have that's better than me? And what don't I have? I was always focused on what I didn't have. And a lot of parents who have 2 kids will understand this because I will give each of my kids pirate booty and one will say, well, how much did the other get? Well, how much did the other get? And I'm like, I gave you 15 pieces of pirate booty and him 16 pieces, and you're not going to enjoy your 15 pieces because he has 16 pieces, right? And it really got me thinking. I know that's a very silly example. It really is.
I've experienced it with your children.
It's such a silly example, right? But like I have done that my whole life. I have done that my whole life. What does so-and-so have that I want that I don't have? And I was so caught up in being in this mindset of like scarcity and lack rather than, wow, I have 15 and I'm going to enjoy every 15 of those. I get to have 15. I get to have 15. And you know what? If I want more, I'm going to work hard and I'm going to try to get 16. I'm going to work harder to get it. And if I don't get it, that's okay. And if I do get it, great. If I don't get it, you know what? I challenge myself. I push myself to try. And I got better as a human being, even though maybe I didn't get that outcome I wanted. Right. But I just think if we always are looking around to see what other people have and what we don't have, we don't get to enjoy what we actually have. Right. And I think a lot of people will understand that, like, if you are on a B team and you're like, Tori's on the A team and I want that. And I'm so jealous that she's on the A team and I have to be on the B team. And we miss the opportunities to be on the B team to improve and get better and try new things. And we're never, A, going to get to the A team. But B, we're never going to enjoy the B team. And we're never going to enjoy the game that we love and the game that we enjoy. And we're not going to get better. So that's something that I've been focusing on recently. It's helped me as a parent. It's helped me as an analyst. It's helped me in every way, shape, or form to free myself up to enjoy what I actually do have. That was a long-winded answer. Sorry about that.
But that's good. That's good stuff right there.
You got one? You want to share?
Yeah, I do have one. I think there's just been some circumstances in my life lately that have forced me to have perspective. And while I wouldn't wish the circumstances on anyone else, like, it's caused me to do a lot of like deep reflection and be like, okay, this puts things into perspective. And, you know, XYZ is important to me, but I'm not going to let it ruin my life because of stress. Like, I think so often the things that are important to me, like, until I find a solution, become these stressors. And I'm like, if it isn't perfect, then I'm not doing my job. If I'm not spending every waking hour until I get the solution, then I'm not doing my job. But like, I've just kind of started to have a different perspective of like, okay, I'm doing every single thing I can and I'm giving my best effort and I care and I love it, but it doesn't mean that I have to make it everything about me or everything I do. And I think that it's that perspective has also just given me like a really comfortable feeling of surrender. Not a like, I surrender this because I can't handle it. It's like, I surrender all these things I can't control and I'm going to focus on what I can. But also at the end of the day, like there's a bit of things that are just going to be what they're going to be because I can't control other people. I can't control, these outside environmental factors. And all I can do is like be the person I want to be, handle the things I want to handle it and give it my best effort. But after that, there's no purpose in stressing about it because all it's going to do is like affect me internally.
Yeah. And whatever happens is never going to break you.
Right.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah. Right back at you, man. This is where you need to come if you need some insight. This is the podcast for insight today.
Yeah. I feel like we just need to bring on a listener one time and let a listener and like be part of this too.
That'd be fun.
That would be fun.
Yeah, that'd be a good time.
Awesome. Well, you guys are amazing. Thank you for sticking around with us for this long. Obviously, this is something that's really close to our hearts because it's something that we wish we would have been able to implement into our own game. And it is something that we live out right now. And everybody wants to know how to get better. And this is one way that you can really get better without having to spend too much time or sweat or money. It's just work. It's just pushing yourself mentally more than anything else. And guess what? No one's ever going to see that work. No one's ever going to see that work, and only you. And ultimately, at the end of the day, if you do the work, you're obviously going to be in a better place mentally and physically, but you can be really proud of yourself too. One other way you can get better, you guys, is to use West Coast gloves, which Tori's repping them right now.
I'm obsessed with this.
They're our proud sponsor, and they have the best glove and goalkeeper equipment. They make gloves for everybody from pros to goalkeepers that work for their first day. They have premium material. Over 100 goalkeepers around the world at the pro level trust them, like Kalen Sheridan, Matt Turner. You guys know them. They have over 40 models, and there's a glove for everyone. So visit westcoastgoalkeeping.com, and while you're doing that, then you can come and sign up for our select camp because we have that in June and July. We are filling up very quickly. We are almost at max capacity for camp number 1, which I'm super excited for. Tori's one of our camp directors. And ultimately, at the end of the day, you guys, we want to support you because goalkeeping is the most misunderstood position on the field and most forgotten about and most overlooked. And it's the most important one. So we want to help you and we want to support you because you have aspirations and dreams. And we've been there. We've done that. I want to help you get to yours. But for now, we'll catch you later.
We'll catch you later.